Good evening, everybody, and how are we all doing today? It is Sunday, the 16th of November, 2025. Hope everyone's had a great weekend, and I hope that everybody has avoided any damage from the storm that has came through this week. If you are watching on Instagram, you might notice that things are a little bit different over there because of a new feature that has been added, but I won't go into details on that. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is homegrown versus shop bought. What can you really tell is the difference? And I think there's a multitude of questions and answers about this, but it is also going to be very much down to the individual. And obviously, I'm a keen vegetable gardener. I try and grow all my own food. And I can actually really notice a lot of difference in taste and texture when it comes to comparing most foods to homegrown to shop bought. Whether that would work in a taste test is another thing, but I'm the type of person I can tell if we take baked beans, I could always tell the difference between Heinz and the supermarket's own. But what is the difference? What do you think the difference is between homegrown or versus shop bought? Or can you tell any difference? That's going to be the first question. Can you tell any difference in homegrown versus shop bought? Now, let's see if anybody is out there. We've got Adrian saying, hi, Richard and all. Good evening to you. We've got Turbo Stream saying, good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. We have got Ballycillion. Evening, everyone. Good evening to you. We have got Jenny is there saying, hello, everyone. I hope you are well. Nathan, good evening, all. Good evening to you. We have got Nicola saying, evening, Richard, and all. Temperatures have really dropped today. Indeed, they have. Indeed, they have. It certainly feels a lot colder today, doesn't it? We have got Stuart Jackson, evening, Richard, and the Veg Army. Hope everyone is okay after the storm. Indeed, we got away with it quite well here. We just had a lot of wet weather, but if anybody has had any damage from a storm, let us know in the comments. Hargrave Gas, evening all. Hope everyone has had a great week. I'm driving, so we'll be listening, but can't comment. Sorry about that. No worries, you drive safe. That's the important thing. Scott is there saying good evening all. Good evening to you. Kate is there saying good evening, Veg Army. Good evening to you. Format is wrong, says Digwell. On what? Where are you watching? I wonder if you're on YouTube and you've got your phone in vertical mode. That might be what's going on there. Try holding it in landscape and see if that makes any difference. Anna says this is a mobile phone chat. The other one is better. Okay, this might be a YouTube thing. Just bear with me. I'll see if I can change it at some point. Gary says, good evening all. Good evening to you. Rebecca is there saying, good evening all. Good evening to you. Are you British? Yep, I am British. Very British. Turkey is Turkey. It's yummy. Yep, I'm British. Turbo Stream, we were in the amber zone. I think we had over 70 mil of rain this week. Yeah, I've avoided it, but we did have a lot of rain, which has filled up my water butts quite nicely. Stuart Jackson, own grown carrots, tomatoes are much better than shop bought ones. Oh, homegrown carrots and tomatoes are much better than shop bought ones. Indeed, I think they are. I do think carrots, tomatoes are great examples of things that taste better when they are homegrown when compared to the supermarkets. So I agree. There's definitely a difference. What is the difference that you find, Dave? Gary says homegrown certainly more wonky. Good point. That is a good point. I don't see that as being a bad thing, having wonky veg, certainly when it comes to carrots, but that is also an example of where perhaps supermarkets can be a little bit better. On my PC, video is in portrait. Is that so? Let's see if I can change it. It should be in video according to this. Anna Jones says there are two chats. If you want a PC, go to the other. Okay, that explains that. it's a new thing that StreamYard have brought out. Apparently, I can stream in vertical or portrait, and I've chosen to do it both for YouTube just to spread the algorithm about. Andrew is driving home at the moment. We'll engage better when home. Evening, Richard and everyone. Good evening to you. We've got Turbo Stream. We had 2 live streams going for some reason. Yes. Anna Jones, hello to you. And Jenny says, shop veg makes me ill. I'll have to buy organic and grow as much as possible. And Turbo Stream, the other one is in vertical format. Portrait on my phone too. Over on Instagram, Ian has joined and says, evening Richard and all. Yes, so what I think is going on in YouTube is that it's created 2 different, a portrait version and a vertical horizontal version. So whichever one you are using depends on what you would prefer. So go check out the feed and see what the difference is. Scott says, you can tell the difference in 100% fact. In my job, I have tried the best quality from suppliers, and even that doesn't complete. It's all to do with a loss of sugars after picking, hence frozen peas, etc. Indeed, I do think there is something about that. I do think there is a lot to be said about frozen or picking vegetables at their best from our garden when we pick them up and get them straight into dishes. We can't do that with shop bought vegetables. You can't go and get some carrots straight out the garden and put it into your dishes when you're going through a supermarket. So I think there's definitely something going on. There's definitely something there. Thumbs up all. And Digwell says, well, that is a bit stupid. I nearly turned off. I wasn't sure what to do, to be honest with you. I was experimenting, so I'm learning as we go. Unfortunately, I can't go live without doing an experiment. So you know what I mean. Yeah. Portrait on my phone. If you're on YouTube, there's another stream. I might just do vertical next time if that's what horizontal. Sorry, if that's what people prefers. I thought for Instagram it might be easier. Turbo Stream says I turned off on both streams, and Gary says, "Oh yeah, I was on the vertical one. Not a fan of that. The normal stream is much better." Lesson learned. I think for Instagram, I don't like portrait. I'll be honest with you. I much prefer horizontal anyway when I'm watching anything. But Instagram is meant to be for portrait, and when I see it on the screen, the normal portrait that we do on Instagram is janky. So I've done it for both on YouTube, but I'll probably get rid of the vertical one next. The portrait mode, sorry, next time. Just to complicate things. Turbo Extreme says, I tend not to buy vegetables that I grow, so I can't really compare the two. Oh, excuse me. Fisher Cato, hi, hello to you. Stuart Jackson, I think we only pick where veg we're going to use in the shop is at least 2 weeks old. So let's get on to the subject, really. Over on Instagram, Toby Clark and Andy's Garden 24 have joined. Let's really get into it. Let's get into the meat and bones. I think it's safe to say that most of us here in this audience will be growing their own food. And I certainly am an advocate for that. I think growing our own food is the right way to live. I don't have the right to tell anybody how to live, but I think it is the right way to live for a multitude of reasons. The biggest reason that I think people should be growing more of their own food is I'm hearing more and more people are struggling financially at the moment because the cost of living is just going up and up and up. And I think that is a bit of a problem. That's, for me, is a good reason to grow your own food. But it has to be worth it. And I feel that the flavour when we grow our own is so much better than shop bought. Now, things like tomatoes and carrots are 2 great examples of foods that are incredibly more tastier when we grow our own compared to shop bought. And I do think that is I think that's the general consensus. I think everyone will agree with me that homegrown vegetables are going to taste so much better in most cases. I'm sure there's going to be examples where people will say they're not as good. But tomatoes and carrots are two prime examples. The downside is that you do get more wonky carrots, as already said. You do get imperfect vegetables. They're still perfectly edible, but supermarkets have selected the best of the best to go on their shops shelves. Now, supermarket food, the choice that they have isn't as strong or as wide as what we can have as growers. We can grow a multitude of different type of varieties of tomatoes, for example, because we can grow it. All we've got to think about is it easy to grow? Does it produce enough food? And when we harvest it, it goes straight into our plates. When it's a supermarket, there's a whole chain involved, and that creates an issue where supermarkets need to think about things like how easy is it to transport these vegetables? How easy or how long will they last on the shelf? How easy is it to store them so they can be sold easily? And also things like uniform. You don't want a package of tomatoes where you got a baked tomato and a small tomato in the same pack. They want to all be the same size. As home growers, we don't have that complicated thing to worry about. So for supermarkets, flavor is much further down the list. But so the question I asked is, how many of you can taste the difference or tell the difference between homegrown versus shop bought? I've already read that one. Fisher Cato says, hi, hello to you, Digwell. But if you are on a mobile phone, then just turn the phone to landscape like with any movie. Yeah, I'm hoping that does work on YouTube. I'm not sure. It does. I don't know if it works on Instagram, so I'm learning things. Scott says, I'm watching on the TV and typing on the phone, and the TV is normal, so not bothering me. There you go. There's an advantage, isn't it? You can watch on the TV and type on the phone. There is some advantage to this. Andy's Garden over on Instagram says, I agree that homegrown is better for us and tastes better. But for me, the most rewarding thing about growing our own is the enjoyment. Enjoy the wildlife, the outdoors, and the reward is the food. Again, couldn't agree more. There is a lot more that goes into growing our own than just it being about the food. It's the joy, the rewards, being out in nature, getting away from technology sometimes as well. Stuart says, this is better. Thanks for the tip. Thank you. Digwell says, it all depends what you mean by shop: supermarket, farm shop, greengrocer, etc. So this is actually a very good point, because I think there are different grades. So a supermarket, I think they're for the mass market. They're going to buy in bulk, but they've got a lot more. But they're catering for the cheaper end of the spectrum, I guess you could say. A greengrocer is that mid-level. I think the greengrocer gives good quality food, but if they don't sell it, they make a loss. So they've got a very fine balancing point between that. And I'll throw in market gardens as well. That being said, there's a lot of market gardeners now that actually grow their food and take it straight to market, which tallies in with farm shop, which I put at the second highest level behind grow your own. And the reason I say that is because, generally speaking, I know there's going to be a lot of controversy about farm shops. We mentioned that quite a few times. But for me, the farm shop does sell high quality food in general, that you much better than what you would get in the supermarket. May not necessarily be grown on the farm shop, but it might be benefiting the local farmers in one way or another, like a co-op type thing. And it says strawberries, raspberries, sweet corn, and tomatoes are all better homegrown. Excellent. And Digwell says homegrown tomatoes are usually tastier because we grow varieties that are not sold in the shops. And this is actually a good point. This is what I was saying earlier, that we have a bit more choice of what we can grow when it comes to supermarket varieties, or when we compare ourselves to the supermarket, because we can grow different varieties. We can often grow better varieties that are much more tastier for our needs. Turbo Stream says, I don't grow carrots because the badgers get there first, but I do buy a bag at Christmas and tend to roast some for my Christmas meal. Again, a lot of differences there. Carrots are a good example of something, in my opinion, that tastes better. And there's a lot more choice of varieties, something that we mentioned earlier. But some of the varieties that we might grow at home may not make it to a supermarket because of the fact that they won't last long enough. A supermarket might need food to be there for a couple of weeks before it even sees the shelf, whereas our tomato carrots, you pull them out the ground, and within a couple of days they've started to dry out and go wrinkly unless you've taken action. So there is definitely something about the supermarket type of thing that needs a bit of a thought going on. Nicholas says, I prefer the homegrown flavour over shop bought. I think the other important thing is, unless you buy organic, no chemical sprays or feeds. Yeah, again, something about organic food, something about growing your own is that we are more likely to be organic and we have more control about being organic to a point. I'm going to say to a point, because if you're on an allotment and your neighbour's spraying their food with chemicals, which is their choice, but there is a chance that some of that chemicals might spray onto yours as well. But that could be the same in a farm as well. So just something to bear in mind. Turbo Extreme says, I grow black currants but seldom see any for sale. So again, I can't compare. Black currants are often sold in supermarkets, but how do they compare? Does anybody know? How do black currants compare, shop bought or home grown? Stuart says, buying local will also help if you want fresh veg or can't grow everything you need. I certainly do think buying fresh veg is very, very important to us as a species. I think just buying that healthy fresh vegetables is one of the most important aspects of growing your own that we can do. Salad leaves, I go and pick a salad leaves and 5 minutes later I've eaten it. You can't get fresher than that. Then Scott says, I think when we apply cost to our homegrown, it needs to be costed against high and local farm shops, etc. You pay for quality. And again, I actually agree with that. When I try and keep track of all the food I harvest all year, and I used to do this on the blog post, but I've been having website issues. But I used to put like a blog post up comparing the value of the food I've harvested to the value I would buy it from a supermarket. And I would put the economy prices, because I think that's often what people are looking at. If you can buy a bag of carrots for 19p, why would you grow your own? The thing is that 19p of carrots are not going to be high quality. If you grow your own carrots, it's going to be more like a £5 bag of carrots. You get what I'm saying? It's the higher quality food, the farm shop, the higher quality food in comparison to what we grow. Higher end of the market, that's the word I was looking for, comparison to what we grow when we grow our own food. Am I making much sense, or am I rambling on a little? I'm worried of getting lost in this conversation. Jenny says, shop veg covered in anti-shoot and anti-root. Makes it shine, kill any hidden bugs, chemicals, to kill bacteria, wrapped, unnecessary plastic wrapping, a lot to avoid. That's a good point, actually. Yes, when you do buy your food when you do grow your own food, it's not sprayed in anything. In theory, it should be sprayed in anything, but it's also not wrapped in plastic and contributing to the problems that we often have with what was I going to say? Waste disposal, recycling, and things like that. I know many of us are good at recycling, but do we really need to do it when we could be growing our own food? Nicholas says, it has worked on my phone horizontal that I'm watching, but the old phone I'm typing on is vertical. Excellent. Doubles the viewing figures, I think. It probably doesn't, but we'll see. Turbo Stream says, I do buy frozen peas, but don't eat that many. So easier for me to buy them than grow them. So peas are a good example, actually, of something that when we grow our own, I think we struggle to grow enough peas. A big bag of supermarket peas is a lot of pea plants. And I'd love to know, that is one thing, we grow a lot of peas, but we do struggle to be self-sufficient in peas. Has anybody out there been able to be self-sufficient in all the peas that they need throughout the year? I'm going to throw that out as a question. That's a good question, actually. Nicola, I couldn't afford to buy organic or even some of the small greengrocers at farm shop. Again, cost is a good thing. Rob's still on holiday and in the pub. Hello to the pub. Hope you are all watching and enjoying. Scott says, same homegrown for me makes high-end produce affordable. That's a really good way of putting it, isn't it? Homegrown makes high-end produce affordable. I would like that. I'm going to, Scott, can you put that in a message to me, that phrase? Because I'm going to use that in a few things in the future. I like that a lot. Anna Jones agrees. Store or bought tomatoes are very basic. You'll never find a huge amount of different shapes, sizes, colours, and flavours that you find in heirloom tomatoes that many of us grow. And in fact, colours was something I was going to mention as well, because you can't get black, or very hard to buy black tomatoes, maybe from a farm shop, but black tomatoes that you can grow, or purple carrots and white radishes or white aubergines, things like that, that you can't buy from a supermarket, but we can grow our own with, make all the difference. Digwell says, much of it is down to the Mandela effect. We think it tastes better because we have been told it is. As you suggested, a blind taste test is often needed. I agree with it. I do agree with what Digwell is saying. I still think homegrown, and I certainly think I can tell the difference, but that's because I've got quite a select palate. But I wouldn't like to say, I wouldn't take a bet that I can tell the difference. I'm just very good at being able to tell. I use the baked bean examples. I could always tell what was Heinz baked beans and what wasn't. And I've got quite a few other foods like that that I can actually tell the difference. But that's probably me with my ADHD. I can notice a lot of things that some people don't always pick up on, certain signs and textures that other people don't pick up on, that I can tell the difference with. So could we all take, if who, I'll tell you, that's a good question then, Digwell. Put your hands up if you think in a blind taste test you could tell the difference between shop bought or homegrown. And if you can't, just say I couldn't. You don't think you could. Jenny says humans spray their crops to kill the insects who eat them. Then we eat them covered in those chemicals ourselves. Doesn't make any sense. Again, this is the whole organic debate. I agree. It doesn't make any sense. It is a little bit crazy how we should how we go about these things. But even organic growers can spray their foods in some type of herbicide. It's just an organic herbicide. Does it mean it's a bad thing? I don't know. That's up to you to debate. I try not to use anything at all. If I can't make it or grow it myself, I don't really want to use it. Digwell says, I defy anyone to prefer homegrown garlic if tasted blind. Now, again, I actually think garlic, I could tell the difference. And that is more to do, as opposed to the flavour, it's the strength that I think I could tell the difference with. Depending, of course, on how old the garlic is. So my fresh garlic came out my allotment, came out my kitchen garden. I find that to be more pungent, more stronger than anything I buy from the shop. And it's not so much the taste, it's that, like that heat you get from garlic. That's where I can tell the difference. But again, I'll come back to the sophisticated palate that I have. And also the different varieties, I think, make a difference there. Garlic tends to be, well, from supermarkets, a sort of, in my opinion, a slightly toned down version of garlic, whereas the garlics that we can buy can be, depending on the varieties, pretty pungent, pretty strong. But I do like grown garlic as well. One of my favourite things to grow. Turbo Swoop says, no farm shops near me. So again, I can't compare the taste of carrots. They taste like soap raw to me for some reason. I wonder if that's to do with a similar thing as, is it coriander that tastes like soap? And I'm just trying to work it out. Carrots and coriander are from a same family, if I'm not mistaken. So I wonder if there's something going on there. Can you eat coriander? Nicholas says, Turbo, what about growing carrots in an old water containers raised off the ground. And so, as a non-foodie, I doubt I could taste the difference. I've never seen black currants on sale here. They're all over the place. So you might find them, you might not. Gary says some things I wouldn't eat if I didn't. I wouldn't eat if I didn't grow it. That's a good point, actually. One of the best examples of that would be something like Jerusalem artichokes, or kale is another example. Except for somebody in the audience who I know despises them, despises kale, that is. But before I really got into growing my own, I never really ate Jerusalem artichokes or kale. But once I started growing my own, I realized that I actually quite like the things. I mean, Jerusalem artichokes I don't grow anymore because they're really hard to keep in check, keep in control. But they were tasty when I did grow them. I quite enjoyed eating them. I didn't like the after effects, though. Didn't like the after effects. Fruit is often, says Scott, not always, if not always, is picked underripe, so it travels better. Homegrown, you can pick it at its best. Again, that is very, very true. Very true. But this is what annoys me to a certain extent. Strawberries that are available all year round. It is possible to grow your own strawberries all year round, I guess, if you have the right ability growing them indoors. But in a supermarket en masse, that's pretty difficult to do. Turbo Stream says, I do prefer my sprouts to shop bought ones, but that might be the variety rather than the quality issue. Again, I don't doubt that. But what is it? I think this is a question. What is it that you feel is the best advantage of homegrown compared to shop bought? What is your number one reason for homegrown versus shop bought? Jenny says, I also eat seasonally. I will not eat supermarket veg or fruit, and I will not support the mass greedy imports, etc. Do many people realize carrots, etc., in supermarkets are imported? That's not always the case. Some are grown in the UK. Many times they are grown in the UK, but they are also imported quite often. Nicholas says, homegrown food you can't match with shop bought. That straight off the plant, warm flavour and taste and smell. Again, I don't disagree. Don't disagree at all. Jenny says, I was self-sufficient in peas a couple of years ago. I asked earlier if anybody was self-sufficient in peas. So Jenny was. I sowed every few weeks and had several small groups of plants. As older plants slow down, younger ones were getting into full production. There we go. That answers that. So Jenny has been self-sufficient in peas. Digbert says, even experts say that frozen peas are better for you. The starches do not form as the peas are frozen within minutes of picking. And this is absolutely true. Yes, peas are another example, like sweet corn. I can't think of any other examples, but peas and sweet corn in particular, they need freezing or they need blanching at the very least as soon as they come off the plant. So sweet corn is a great example. When I harvest my sweet corn, it's the very last thing I will do on the allotment, and then I rush home, get it into a pan of hot water for literally a minute, I've got an itch on my leg, sorry, just to blanch it, and that then can go in the freezer or eaten after that. And that is literally to stop the sugars turning to starch. And that's why homegrown sweet corn can sometimes taste a little, less sweet, because those sugars have turned to starch because they haven't been blanched for quick enough. Top tip, blanch your sweet corn within an hour. Turbo Stream says, I agree about tomatoes, but I haven't yet successfully grown tomatoes, so who knows? There's still chance. There's still chance. M&S sell more different types of tomatoes than any other vegetable, but you need to take a mortgage out to buy. Yeah, and you need to live near a Marks and Spencer's because they're not always accessible either. Stuart's raised his hand to the question I asked earlier. He could tell the difference between in a taste test. Turbo, I will admit that food for me is fuel, so as long as it tastes okay, then that's all I'm bothered by. Anna can also put a hand up that she can tell the difference in a blind taste test. Nicholas says, I think you can taste the difference. Also, homegrown often feels denser when biting on and chewing. Yeah, I mean, texture is a big thing. It's not all about flavour. Texture. And what else? freshness, um, density. There's a lot of good reasons of telling the difference. Another veg is sweet corn, is better from my garden. Yep, and for the reasons I've just explained. What else have we got? Chili cat. I think you will taste the difference with some veg, but not the others. You know, I was expecting more people to say that actually, and I have to agree. I do think there are. Um, thank you, thank you. Somebody's just messaged me. I've been trying to. I spotted it on the camera as well. I was trying to remove it discreetly. Yeah, there are some foods that you can tell the difference more than others. I was expecting more people to say that that might be a good question. Is there any vegetables that you can't tell the difference with? I know Digwell's already mentioned what's it called? Garlic. What else have we got? Scott says, I can taste the difference. Carrots and peas, etc., will taste sweeter. Garlic, when eaten raw. I'm getting lost there. Screen keeps moving. When eaten raw, will be hotter in taste, and when cooked, you will get away with using less because it's stronger in taste. Good point. Good point. Turbo Stream, the badger's still attacking carrots. What have we got? Chili Kate, Digwell. Let me give my words out. Sorry, I'm getting a little paranoid. People would say, is that not a different subject? The global supply chain, strawberries in winter for me taste better than my own because I don't have any. That is a very totally different subject. I'll grant that. I will grant that is a totally different subject. Turbo Extreme says, I tend to eat seasonally, but I do buy blueberries and bananas. I freeze most of my homegrown veg anyway, so as to extend this seasons. Again, I think it's right to sort of say, I'm not going to run down supermarkets completely or go in to buy things like bananas because I've never been able to grow a banana. I've tried, but I've never actually been able to produce a banana here. I would love to. One year I might be able to do it. Nicholas says, peas never seem to get to the kitchen unless sugar snap peas. A few make it to the kitchen. Here it's a 3 minutes walk from picking to the pan. Again, that is one of the other troubles with peas, isn't it? They are very like sweets. Eat them straight away. Intelligent Horticultural Soul has joined over on Instagram. I keep meaning to get back to your emails. I'm useless with emails at the moment. Chili Kate says, bought veg has to have the country of origin displayed on it, so it's easy to know where it's from. Yeah, exactly. That's the point I was trying to get to earlier as well. This is why if you look at the packaging, you often actually see, I think we often do supermarkets a disservice because they are actually trying to source more from UK suppliers where they can. It makes sense. It's just the cost sometimes that brings it down. Turbo Stream, I have an M&S near me, and actually some of their products are price matched. I was surprised, to be fair. Lucky you. Lucky you. That's all I say. Jenny says, I haven't eaten shop bought veg for years, so I don't know if I could tell the difference with taste, but I'm sure you could with some veg. I'm pretty certain I could. Pretty certain I could. On some veg, not all. Andrew has joined. For me, the greatest joy is to harvest something and go straight to the kitchen. Again, this is what it's all about, isn't it? Picking that apple, picking that sweet corn, picking that turnip and taking it straight into the kitchen and turning it into something even more delicious. I think that is why we do it. That is why we do it. Digwa says, again, there are different carrots. Some are sweeter than others. Again, and this is the point as well. Some are sweeter than others. Some are harder. Some are softer. Some are better for mashing. Some better for roasting and steaming. Shops only sell a few types. This is it. Same with potatoes. Same with so many things. Different carrots, different varieties, different uses, different needs, different everything. A lot going on there. A lot going on. Turbo Extreme, there were a few apples on the sharing bench. I took a few. They were all rotten inside. So apples is one of the things I do buy. So if they're rotten inside, that's because they probably had a worm like a moth larvae actually lay its egg and puddle and dig through the apple and create some holes. This is where organic gardening has its fall downs, because if you do get vegetables attacking. Great example. I've my potatoes this excuse me, my potatoes this year. I've grown quite a few potatoes this year, and I actually did a lot of potatoes. Harvested some of my best potatoes I've ever grown this. Oh, I knew it was there somewhere. Sorry, I have really weird hiccups. I've grown some of the best potatoes that I've ever grown this year, and wide reasons why that has happened. But I've also noticed that quite a bit of worm damage. Now, a lot of the other pests I have, wireworm and things like that, have not been a problem. But worm or slug damage, sorry, is the word I'm looking for. Slug damage is the word I'm looking for, and that's because I don't use chemicals. I don't use chemicals, so you're going to have to expect to lose some of these foods to this. I must try non-bio carrots in the future. Codling moth, that's the word I was looking for. But as a way out from that, oh, missed it, sorry. Use a pheromone trap to deal with those. Exactly. Organic methods is a way to do that. Nicholas says, I have trouble with rats stealing veg potatoes, especially through the autumn and winter. So rats, that's an interesting one, because I've had a bit of rat damage on my potatoes this year as well. Not so much not from storage when they were in the ground, but I think that's because it's of drought conditions and they're trying to get to the water from the potatoes, as I understand my research has concluded. Turbo Stream says, I've given up on potatoes. It's easier to buy a bag for my consumption. See, I find that interesting, actually. Potatoes are a staple and considered one of the easiest crops to grow. I'm reading this book called about the Dig for Victory campaign from World War II, and potatoes have featured quite heavily in it, especially at the beginning, because quite a large area was originally intended to be given away to growing potatoes, recommended to grow potatoes. And then it became obvious that people were eating more potatoes than any other green veg. So the recommendation was to reduce that back down. But that didn't stop people from growing lots of potatoes, because they were considered easy to grow and a staple and a good food source for people to eat in times of famine. Digwell says most veg have an ideal time frame for harvesting, e.g., 85 days from seedling emergence, etc. Too early, too late, and the taste is the same can be the same as shop bought. Yeah. Again, it's about picking at the best, and that's something you can do when you grow your own, isn't it? You can pick your food when it's at the best. Gary says, rats stole my potatoes from storage too, Nicola. Keep them indoors now. Yeah, this is something we've got to look at, isn't it? We've got to look at how we can make things a little bit more protected. Nicola, the ones here are generally hungry. They have easy access to water on the farm. A lot of people have been reporting rat damage to their potatoes this year, actually. A lot of people, more than normal, is what I understand. And it is believed to be due to the drought, but who knows? Who knows? The M&S shop is probably the nearest food shop to me. Aldi is twice the distance. That's lucky. I mean, again, this is the joys of supermarkets. There's normally one somewhere nearby. But I say my garden is even closer than the supermarket, so I can go and harvest my food straight from the garden. I don't have to go into the shop. Another phrase from the Dig for Victory campaign is an hour in a garden saves an hour in the queue, which is something I'm going with. Ballyskillian says, I would say freshly harvested veg tastes better than what I don't. I would say freshly harvested veg tastes better. That's why I don't store any of my crops. I let the supermarkets do it for me. Good point. Good point. Digwell says bloody autocorrect. I didn't spot anything, so I get it. Turbo Stream says my potatoes all sprouted before I got to eat them. I know you cut them off, but it put me off. If they sprouted, that's because they're too warm. You just need to keep them somewhere really cold. Digwell says, no T-bone steak in my garden, so have to go to the shop anyway. Have you not got a cow in your garden? But I take your point. I do take your point. We're lucky we do have chickens in our garden, which of course lay eggs. And I just realised, I mentioned last week how we had, my chicken had laid a small, beautiful blue-green egg. And this is it. This is it. Look how small that is. But boy, isn't it beautiful? What a lovely, lovely colour. And again, this egg has came from my garden. It hasn't came from the supermarket. It's came from my garden. You wouldn't find an egg like that in the supermarket, would you? I'm very happy with that. Very happy with that. My potatoes were tiny. I like jackets mostly, so need decent size. Tiny potatoes mean lack of moisture, believe it or not. I have found, well, I'll discuss potatoes another time, because I've found that I've produced some of my best potatoes this year, and I've put that down to 2 reasons. Nicola, I'm looking forward to, did anybody see a flash across their screen now? I've put my phone in a different place, so I don't know if it's affecting you. Nicola, I'm looking forward to harvesting more grown veg fruit next year and in raised beds. Nothing wrong with eating sprouting spuds. Exactly right there. Exactly right. I do think there's a lot to be said for homegrown veg when compared to shop bought, though. And I am, as the saying is, grow more food. This is my motto: grow more food. We're going to continue to grow as much food as we can. We don't want to buy anything from supermarkets. I'm lucky, obviously, I've got a reasonable sized garden. I've also got the allotment, so I can do it with a lot of thought, a lot of hard work. But I much prefer to do that than go down to the supermarket myself. Tesco sell bluebell aracuna eggs, and they are blue. Well, you have to go and show me up, but are they as good as that one? Are they as good as that one? Actually, eggs are a great example of something that goes on in the supermarket, because my eggs, and we can actually tell the difference here. So my eggs for my birds, generally speaking, the eggs, the color of the yolk is much more vibrant and holds together much better. We can tell the difference when we're cooking as well, the difference that goes on when we are cooking our eggs. But boiled eggs, interestingly, my eggs being so much fresher than supermarket eggs are at least 30 days old, whereas my own eggs, it could be a few days. And if we boil my eggs, what we find, and this is a known thing, is that the shell is actually quite hard to come away from the egg. You end up actually taking chunks of the egg white when you peel away the shell. And that is more due to the freshness of the egg than anything else. The egg is just too fresh that the shell doesn't peel away very easily. So, yeah. Turbo Stream says, I'm sticking to a few basic veg next year, just a few beans, onions, parsnip, etc. I need to tackle my homegrown garden and reducing my veg I grow on the allotment. Yeah. Nicola, yes, can see flashing on your phone. Right, I moved it out of the way so it won't happen, I hope. Digwell, I don't eat that many spuds, so they go off too quick. Okay. Different ages for eggs for different uses. Again, that is very true. That is very true. But a good dippy egg, I mean, who doesn't like a nice boiled dippy egg? You actually do need it to be a few days old so that the shell peels away from the egg white and the yolk a lot easier than older eggs. Gary says, smallholder near me has eggs for sale. Yolks are very different color, but break easily during cooking. Yep. It's these sort of things. There's a lot of advantages to homegrown or home-laid eggs, but there's also disadvantages at the same time. I meant to say, over on Instagram, Toby has put in for, and it's a good example actually, a hashtag cookalong, make carrot pickle, which unfortunately, Toby, that hasn't came up on the on the thing, on the giveaway tool that I use. So I think there must be something going on where it doesn't quite work with Instagram, I'm afraid. I will have a look into that in the future. But if nobody else pots in a cook-along, it's going to be carrot pickle. Or somebody could mention carrot pickle as well. Know exactly what you're saying. Eggs are one of the best proteins with extra nutrients to eat. Absolutely, absolutely. Digwell says, good trick for perfect poached eggs. Break the eggs into a sieve so the excess water runs through. No wispy whites in the water, then darn, another secret gone. There we go. There we go. And there you go, Toby. Jenny's pot it in for you. Gary, depends on how small the small holding is keeping birds. Carrot pickle or pickled carrots. Okay, Digwell, remember your one is going to be pickled carrots. If you come up, you're going to be pickled carrots, but Jenny is going to be carrot pickle for Toby. There we go. There we go. Would you like to see a video? Let's do that. Let's go to this week's cook-along. So I've done something a little bit different this time. Let's see what it's all about.
Hey! Come and cook with me. Make some food with me. Come on, everybody. We're gonna make some food. Let's go.
Okay, this week's recipe is to make a chili sauce recipe, and I ummed and ahed on what type of chili sauce we were going to make. Because logically, you would make the bottled type, such as this habanero honey hot sauce that I've made yesterday. You can find a recipe for this up on the veggroundpodcast.co.uk. It's absolutely delicious. But what I thought I would do for today is to make a different type of chili sauce. A chili sauce that you might find on your kebab, one that's only going to last a couple of days unless you freeze it. It's not a bottle type, it's certainly more of a sauce. Now firstly, I've gathered all the ingredients I'm going to need. Gone out to the greenhouse and collected some of my last of my tomatoes. We've got a few chilies. I've gone for a mix of chilies. All we've got to do with these, cut the tops off so that they will then be safe. I'm leaving the seeds in, but we could remove the seeds if we wanted it a little bit milder. Again, these aren't any special chilies, but a different type of chili will give a different heat. We've got one red onion. I'm sticking with red onion. I've peeled and roughly chopped that. 2 cloves of garlic. We've got some tomato paste and some red wine vinegar. Now to make this sauce, all we're going to do is throw all these ingredients, really nothing complicated about this, into this blender. Should probably chuck the tomatoes, but I'm not going to bother. I'll let the blender do the job for us. This blender is quite a good blender, so it does a very good job for us. And then we turn it on, blend. That's the sauce made effectively, but it looks a little bit runny to me. So what we're going to do is pour this into a pan and just cook off some of that moisture and thicken it up a little bit. So this has only been a couple of minutes, not long, 5 at the most, and it's reduced quite a bit. It's thickened up the sauce nicely, but the colour is now definitely a much more vibrant red, which is what we want. I'm just going to add in some chopped herbs, parsley particularly, grate in some pepper, and a bit of salt. That definitely, to me, Looks more like the chili sauce you would expect to see in a kebab. Well, I think that has reduced enough, so all I'm going to do now is pour it into a bowl, leave it to cool, and then we'll see how it tastes. And as if by magic, here you go. This is our kebab chili sauce. Looks absolutely amazing. I've got to say, we made quite a big batch of this in the end. We're going to put some of it in the freezer, but we're going to see what this tastes like today. Oh, that is lovely. That is really, really, really lovely. There's not a huge amount of chili in it. Those chilies that I chose were grown in my straw bales on the allotment, funny enough. I did put in some of my habaneros, but I was trying to be a bit mild with it. And I think I could have probably added a bit more chili to it. Perhaps my habaneros to add a real kick to it. But I quite like it. I quite like it. Room for improvement. Very delicious, very fresh tasting, would go lovely on a kebab. And what I like about that is it's not that sort of chili sauce that we often think of when it comes to chili sauce, to type in a bottle with all the vinegar and sugar. This is just a very easy, fresh sauce. I'm going to give that a good 9 out of 10. And what I will say is it's probably one of the easiest recipes to make as well. So a lot of good things going on there. I'd love to see if anybody is going to give it a try and how you get on with it. What have we got? So Nicola's suggested a cookalong of honey roasted carrots. Excellent choice. Jenny loves that spoon. I got these spoons. Let me I got a collection of these spoons for Christmas last year, and I absolutely love them. The trouble is, I almost got to the point where I was afraid to use some of these items because I want them looking good for the show. I've decided you've got to use them a bit more. Jamie says, if you halved the tomatoes and de-seeded them, it wouldn't have been as watery. Yeah, but then you lose all that flavour at the same time. I mean, it's a good point, but I like to use everything. I don't like waste in our house, so I like to use everything. I guess the advantage would be you could then save the tomatoes or tomato seeds to grow another thing. But yeah, good point. It wouldn't have been as watery, but I can't say I'm complaining about that. Nicola, I won't be trying the chili sauce as can't eat chilies. Is it the hot chilies or the mild chilies or any chilies? Could, of course, just add peppers to it if you wanted as well, just to add a bit of pizzazz to it. But I like it. I like it a lot. It would go absolutely beautiful in a nice doner kebab. I know not everybody eats doner kebabs unless they're on a piss up on a Friday night sort of thing, which I haven't done for a very long time, of course. Do you remember those days? Remember those days when we used to have a life in the evenings, when we used to go out partying down the pub and get drunk and eat kebabs on the way home and then wake up and still be right as rain the next day? I can't do that anymore. Cannot do that anymore. I'm getting old, as they say. Nicholas says, I could do sweet peppers, but can't eat any chilies. Fair enough. Digwa says, try a tablespoon of bicarb in it. It reduces the acidity of the tomatoes. See if you like it next time. Okay, that's a good tip. I'll remember that. Teaspoon of bicarb and reduce the acidity of the tomatoes. That sounds interesting. That sounds very interesting. Teaspoon, he says. Teaspoon. Hang on. A hangover would floor me for a week. Exactly my point. We're coming up to, I'm going to say the C word, I'm afraid. We're coming up to that period where Christmas and Christmas parties are going to be a thing. And I don't drink, or I didn't drink in the past because I was always driving. I don't have to worry so much about that because I don't have to drive so much. So I could possibly indulge in a couple of drinks. But I'm not looking forward to the hangover. I'm not looking forward to the morning after. I've got how many parties have I got? Christmas parties coming up. I think I've got about 3 Christmas parties to attend to this year, including my works one. So a lot of alcohol could be consumed. D says do it with most tomato sauce, adding a teaspoon of bicarb in it. See, this is why we love some of these little recipe ideas. This is why we love sharing recipes. We do need to do more cooking, I think. I love the cook along each week. I'm glad that you're getting into it and enjoying doing the cook alongs with me. Bonnie has joined, says, sorry I'm late. Not a problem, lovely to see you. Digwell, what time are we due to sneeze this week? I'll get my poncho ready. I don't know when it's due. We may not get one. I don't aim to have one. It just happens. Ian is asking, are we doing a Christmas quiz this year? Of course we're doing a Christmas quiz. It's going to be the Sunday just before Christmas, what is that? I can't remember the date. But we're going to do our Christmas quiz on the Sunday before Christmas, and then we're going to have our New Year's party the Sunday before New Year. We do that every year. We We cannot not do our Christmas quiz, can we? It's a bit of our tradition. Plus, I think it does us good to get around the computer around Christmas and have a bit of fun, doesn't it? Jenny says, I have not had an alcoholic drink for over 10 years. Don't miss it. I drank enough for a lifetime in my teens. I'm in exactly the same boat, actually. I drank loads in my teenage years, and now I'm like, well, I haven't drunk much in years. Occasionally have the bottle of cider, and I do like a nice cider. Gary says, I will try that with passata, Digwell. My daughter doesn't like it on pizzas, and I wondered if that is why. The acidity. Could be. This is a good point. Ian's going to put that in the calendar for the Christmas quiz. Turbo Stream says, I can only do 2 drinks. Then the next morning I was so ill that I gave up. Just 1 can on the weekend. See, I don't even drink that, but that'll do me. Digwell says, I can't do more cooking. 3 videos a week is enough. I want to do more cooking videos. Well, I like the cook along. I'm doing another recipe for the website. I think I know I've got to work more on potting proper videos out. So perhaps cooking is something I might do. 21st, Kate says, is the Sunday before. 21st is going to be the quiz night, the Christmas quiz. Bonnie says, a big day yesterday. We pot up a big fence using pallets and also double gates. All a bit wonky. Wow, that's what happens when you use pallets. But I think there's something, when you use pallets, because they're not always the same size, I think if you get it too spot on, they look wrong. I think if they look intentionally wonky, they have much more appeal when it comes to using pallets. My perspective, anyway. Unless, of course, they're all the same to do. Terry Stream says, I need my annual photo montage then. Yes, we do. We need all that. And Jamie says, I've got a glass of red on the go now. Also, a sprinkle of sugar also combats the acid in the tomatoes. There you go. All these tips and tricks do well. Digwell says, 1 glass of rum does me in. Maybe 500 ml is a bit of a big glass, but what the heck? A 500 ml glass of rum. Yeah. I don't really do spirits, to be fair. Sometimes I might drink whiskey, but very occasionally I like it quite weak, to be fair. But yeah, rum. I brought back rum from St. Lucia when I went there all those years ago, and absolutely loved it. Absolutely delicious, except I couldn't drink it. It was tasty, but I couldn't drink it in large quantities. Gary says, anyone ever made a fence out of hazel? Good question. Has anyone ever made a fence out of hazel? That is a good question to ask everybody. Kate loves rum. And Bonnie's also had a delivery of a load of raw manure, 30 bags. 30 bags of manure, raw manure. Wow, that's a lot. Right, what is the time? 7 o'clock. Do we think we should go? Yeah, let's do it. Let's go to our video, mission video. Where are they? Here we go. I think this is going to be something we can debate a bit afterwards as well. So let's go to it and see what everyone says. So for this week's mission, you wanted me to discuss allotments and dogs, namely people who bring their dogs down to their allotment. Now, this is quite a touchy subject, I feel, so there's going to be a lot of debate, and I welcome that because I have to admit I am a dog lover. I'm an animal lover, but I particularly have a passion for dogs. Now, you will obviously know I have Roxy, my Staffordshire Bull Terrier crossed with a Shar Pei, who is the light of my life. She is my absolute favourite dog in the world, and I have a lot of fun with her. But I very, very rarely bring her down to the allotment. Now, a few reasons for that. One is that when she's around me, she wants all my attention. I kind of understand that. I'm a bit soft with her. So when I'm trying to work on the allotment, I find it very difficult if I have Roxy with me. So I don't bring her down for that reason. But the other reason, we have a rule on our allotment sites that all dogs must be tied up when they are down on the allotment. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of debate whether tying up is the right thing to do. I personally don't like the idea of tying a dog up. But I think there are particular cases when that is necessary, as long as it's not for long periods of time and you're not leaving the dog tied up. But I don't like the idea of it, so I don't bring Roxy down and tie her up for it. The one time I did do that, going back a couple of years ago now, she actually got off her lead, basically pulled her harness off, and she was running around. I was trying to get her back. Of course, I had to drop what I was doing, trying to get her back. She took it as a game, and then one of my neighbours over there had had let all their chickens out, and she saw them and grabbed one of them. I was not best impressed. Luckily, the chicken survived, but the owner of the chickens wasn't very happy at all, and I can completely understand that. Now, counteract to that, he brings his dog down regularly. Every time he comes down, his dog comes down with him. But he doesn't tie his dog up, he just lets his dog roam free. Now, his dog doesn't go for the chickens, so there is a slight advantage there. But at the same time, the dog is just roaming around. In fact, when this gentleman leaves, the dog will follow him in, just running alongside the van, and it upsets quite a few people. So my stance is, I do believe there are examples where a dog can be well trained enough that it can be down on the allotment, but it has to be very, very well trained. And I think that is the key thing. A very well trained dog, same as any dog, it needs training. Now, we've had an example in our live stream with Adrian of where he has had a dog actually bite him recently, and that is an example of the owner not training the dog and not taking responsibility for his dog and his dog's actions. That to me is a very, very wrong line. You are responsible for that dog, and you are responsible for the allotment. If your dog is a risk, you keep it indoors, you keep it muzzled. So I guess what I'm saying, for me, should dogs be on the allotment? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on the dog. The key thing is the owner must abide by the laws and keep the dog trained. Now, I know there's going to be a few people who don't like dogs as well, and I think that is completely understandable. And this is why I say the dog has to be well trained and kept on their own allotment, not allowed just to roam the place. We also have quite a few dog walkers. I think they're allotment holders, but they just walk their dog around the allotment. Again, I don't have a problem with that, but the dog is kept on a lead, which I'm fine with. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Indeed. So in summary for that, I believe that dogs can be on the allotment, but they need to be very well trained. And the trouble I have is that people in general do not train their dogs well enough. I'll take responsibility for Roxy. Her recall is not good enough. The rules are, even out and about, not on allotments, but even out and about, your dog has to be under control at all times. If you have a dog off the lead and the dog doesn't come back to you 100% when you call it, it is not under control and therefore shouldn't be off the lead. That's how we take Roxy, and obviously that's where I feel it is on the allotment. Most people do not train their dogs well enough to be on an allotment. That's my thoughts. That's my thoughts. Margaret says, am I doing the quiz again for you? If you would be so kind, that would be great, please, Margaret, because you do such a good job every time. If you have that time, that is. Nicola says, I've just put up a split hazel fence to stop the ponies climbing into my front garden. It's a commercial made one. Fantastic. Commercial made hazel fence. Brilliant. Kate says, hashtag mission, build a raised bed cover. Good one. Love Roxy. I do too. She's my little girl. I'm a bit besotted with her. So, yeah. Chilli Kate says, I never take Reggie on the allotment when I'm working, but I have done when I'm checking on things. He's poorly at the moment and we are really worried. I'm sorry to hear that. Is he okay? Yeah. But again, yeah, I don't have a problem with that because if you're working on an allotment, it's hard to keep a dog under control. But if you are walking around the allotment, it is on the dog on the lead, it is fine. Toby Clark says, hashtag mission, make a hedgehog home for winter. Good idea there. Gary says, hope Reggie makes a quick recovery. Indeed, I think we all do. Bonnie says, I take Zorro to the plot. You've got a Zorro as well, have you? However, there's 2 dogs that run free at the plots and they belong to the gardens that back onto the plot. Also, they're not actually allotment holders. Their owners don't have plots. It's a big issue as they poo everywhere. Yeah, so those owners are not in control of their dogs, and they're not. Well, that could be actually potentially very dangerous. Very dangerous. Zorro stays with me and not roaming at all. Yep, absolutely. Same here. Anna says, well said, Richard. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad I said something correct. Gary says, we can bring dogs, but allotments are generally enclosed. My dog is lovable, but annoying at the allotment. Treading on plants, chasing stones. So I tend not to bring him when I'm working there. Again, I think we're all in that same boat from what I'm seeing. We're at the allotment for a reason, and it's not for dog walkings. Turbo Swim says the dog owner had a visit from the dangerous dog unit last week. It apparently shook him up. Unfortunately, the allotment is allowing him to bring it down, but it must be on the lead. I don't think that's quite fair, but I can see why they're doing it. They're in a difficult position, whatever they do. Margaret says, no problem. Thank you very much. And Turbo, you are a responsible dog owner. Thank you. I do like a friendly, well-behaved dog, but unfortunately, it seems a lot of dogs aren't under control. I totally agree with that. Now, again, another thing is, I know this is completely off the topic, but it ties in. When we're walking dogs, the amount of dogs that will run up to her off the lead and say hello. And if there was, luckily, Roxy doesn't tend to pay him any attention. But if there were any dogs there that were a bit aggressive, it would be Roxy that gets the blame for it because of her breed. Luckily, she just sort of shrugs them. And if they bark at her, she just looks at them as if to say, yeah, what are you going to do about it? But again, I agree. Dog owners that aren't in control are set the whole dog community off. I'm glad everyone seems to agree with me on this. Jenny says, our beautiful dog passed away in the summer. She was my shadow. I'm so sorry to hear that. Did you? I can't remember if you mentioned that or not. And always went down the allotment with me. We had a fence and she had a bed, a bowl, etc. I would never let her go onto other plots. Exactly. Yeah. I think if you've got a fence around your allotment and the dog can't get out, then that's fair enough, because that's no different to walking past somebody's house. So very, 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 very fair there. She was also my assistant dog to help me / get help if I fell. Now, again, this is actually a good point. Assistance dogs, assistant dogs. I know a lot of people have assistant dogs, not just for people who have struggled with eyesight issues. I'm trying to pick my words very carefully, but they have assistant dogs for a wide variety of reasons. People who are prone to what's the word I'm looking for? Attacks, diabetic attacks, is it? And the dogs can work at alarming the owners if something is going on. Is another reason that people might have assistance dogs. So again, very, very important reasons going on there. Turbo Stream says, I've since been involved with another angry dog owner on my bike. The dog ran over and startled me, and I asked it to be put on the lead, but again was treated with the same verbal abuse. Well, simply tell them that their dog is out of control and needs to be on a lead by law. If they have not got 100% control of that dog, they are breaking the law. And as much as it pains me to say that, it's very fair. The children's gardening coach has joined us over on Instagram. Hello, my friend. Hope you are well. Bonnie in Brighton says, other people's dogs and children are annoying, but one's own are fine. It's true, though. It's true. It's very true. It's very true. Digwell says, I never had any issues with dogs approaching me. It was a long-nosed, green-backed Amazonian water whippet. Some would call it a crocodile. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Turbo Stream says, the dog was muzzled, so that says a lot about the owner too. I reported it to the park ranger on my way home. Yeah, so if it's muzzled, it should be on a lead, shouldn't it, in my opinion? Muzzled, it should be on a lead. Bonnie says, a mission, please discuss music on the plots. That's gone on to the board. Hello, matey, says Lee over on Instagram. Toby Stream, I told them about the Dangerous Dog Act. They laughed at me. Well, this is why have a camera all times on your bike. Then they can't laugh at you. That Win-A-Lot aftershave is no Win-A-Lot aftershave is no good. I do wonder if I give up a cent. Indeed, indeed. Right, shall we have a look at the photos for this week? So I'll be interested to see how that turns out on the Instagram, actually. Let me just try and set this up to be, how do we do it? That's the one we want. Let's have a look at the photos of the week. So first of all, Turbo Stream has sent us this photo of this load of food that he has harvested from his allotment. Only a small amount, he says, but it's enough for him. And it looks like some good cauliflower and peas and other good goodness going on. I can't actually see what we've got going on here, so this is going to be a struggle. I'm going to move over here. Kate's harvest of fresh veg has came in. There's some kale and some carrots. We've been talking a lot about carrots tonight, so very, very interesting indeed. This is what we mean. You can't get colours like those carrots from supermarket veg, can you? Although, what is that? Is that a white carrot on the left-hand side of that? Let us know. Nicola's early spring flowers, if I'm not mistaken, they are primroses. It is very early for them, isn't it? Very, very early for them to be flowering. But this just goes to show how balmy this year is. Everything seems in chaos. We're still picking raspberries, aubergines, chillies outside. It's crazy, crazy, in my opinion. She's also harvested she's also shared this photo of some of her freshly harvested beetroot, which looks absolutely amazing and delicious at the same time. Kate's got a lovely birthday gift, a Hori knife, one of my favourite gardening tools. It's good for cutting, it's good for digging. What more could you want? Absolutely fantastic tool. And if you haven't got one, add it to your list for Santa, because they are such a good tool to have. Now, Steve has shared this weather report, and he basically said he was going to have to stay inside on Friday because the weather was so bad. I have to agree. I do have to agree. Hopefully nobody got any damage. If you did, let us know in the comments if you suffered any damage with that storm. Bonnie's clematis has grown alongside her shed. I believe she was painting it and got it covered in paint at the same time. But she's also shared this photo of her saffron flower. We discussed it a little bit last week. What a beautiful flower, aren't they? What a beautiful flower. And for me, that's a reason alone to grow saffron. This is why I used to love growing saffron. I haven't grown it for a few years, but also the fact that you get these edible, those red stamens are edible as well. Now, please do keep sharing your photos. You can post them in our Facebook group. You can send to me via social media or email me, richard@theveggrowerpodcast.co.uk. That's richard@theveggrowerpodcast.co.uk. We are looking at ways of trying to make that easier and what have you for that. There. So where were we? Right, Turbo Stream says, I'm coming around to the idea of a camera, but I really don't want to. See, I am starting to come to the conclusion that we need to always be recording all the time. I mean, dash cam cameras are a great example. I used to have a dash cam camera in my vans. I haven't bought one in my car at the moment, but I will do. Just because it gives you so much more. If something wants to happen, it gives you that little bit more protection. I know quite a few people are probably going to disagree with having cameras everywhere, but it is what it is. Bonnie says, I put a wildlife camera this week and caught a fox and a squirrel plus 2 cats. I saw a video of the wildlife camera in the Facebook group. Unfortunately, I can't download videos from the Facebook group, but I did see the video of the fox walking along. Wildlife cameras are incredibly good thing to have as well in your allotment, your kitchen garden, to see what's going on when you're not there. Good for security as well. Turbo Stream says they were sprouts. I called them peas. I did think they weren't peas, but it just rolled off the tongue quite nicely. White carrot. It was a white carrot in that photo. Thank you very much. And Ayla says they were fabulous carrots as well. Stuart says the Hori Hori is the tool I use the most. Great tool. I'm with you on that. I am with you on that because I do love using my Hori Hori. Digwell says numerous roads were closed by the police around me, and even though I live on a hill, there was an inch of water in my garden at its storm peak. It's bad, isn't it? We need that rain, though. We have needed a lot of that rain. The trouble is the ground is still quite dry, so it's not soaking into the ground quite easily. But hopefully, after a few months of rain and our reservoirs and rivers start filling up nicely, we'll hopefully recover from it. It's been a dry year, so it's good to get some rain. Great photo, says Gary, and Bonnie's put hashtag cookalong, cooking using plum jam made from plums grown in the summer. I didn't make any plums from the plums I grew in the summer, but I could buy in some plum jam nonetheless. But yeah, good idea. Digwell says, my stand on cameras, if you have nothing to hide, then why worry? I agree. Exactly right. Although that applies to so many things. If you are in public, there's no expectation of privacy. So therefore, you are able to carry out photography and photos when you are in public. Key thing there, being in public. Kate says, I don't know how I managed without a Hori Hori. You've only had it a few days and you're already converted. It's such a great tool, though. Such a great tool. Jenny says, great photos, everyone. Indeed. And Chilli Kate says, hashtag cookalong, something with mooly. I need ideas. Oh, that is a good idea. Excuse me. A good idea. Mooly or daikon radish, as it's also known as. Great Asian recipe thing. Turbo Stream says, I was out for a bike ride. Why should I have to record it in case I encounter some aggressive dog owners? The world has gone mad if that's the case. So the reason being is that it works in your defense. So if it's done by word of mouth, it's your word against his. There's no real evidence to back it up. I agree with you. Why should you have to? But how if somebody accused you of doing something and you couldn't prove it either way, how would you feel with that accusation? But if you've got video evidence that it didn't happen, it's going to back you up, and vice versa. If it did happen, it will back you up. That's all I would say. It's that sort of insurance policy. But I agree at the same time. Bonnie in Brighton, the council finally came to remove the rubbish pile I cleared out from my plot when I gut it in May. 5 months later. You're very lucky they cleared it out, to be fair. Most allotments expect you to clear it out yourself. Although sometimes they do have a skip come to there. Thomas, I don't go around being aggressive, so why do others? Sorry, rent over. Fair point, fair point, fair point. Pickled mooli is good with sushi. Oh, there we go. And the previous owner left broken lawnmowers, paint pots, broken hand hose pipes, etc., etc. It's annoying when people do that. If you saw the state of my neighbour's allotment, they've abandoned it over a year ago. There's some good stuff on there, trees and things, but a lot of junk at the same time. Digwell says, what about if a car knocked you over and drove off? It's a valid point. It's a valid point. This is why I say it's an insurance policy in case something does go wrong. Jamie says, my Hori Hori is awesome, but my Dutch trail is a very close second. I'm not familiar with the Dutch trail, so I'm going to have to look into that. I will have to look into that and see what that is. Right, so it is that time where we call it the rent or rave of the week. I've really got to work on making these sort of segments tie up nicely. But the rant or rave of the week is going to be a rave because we like being positive. We try to do more raves than anything else. And my rave of the week is about my aubergines. I'm still harvesting aubergines. Here we are in literally the middle of November and I'm harvesting aubergines. I've had a really, really good year for aubergines. A lot of those sort of fruits, chilies included, have been really, really quite successful. But aubergines, I find a lot of people struggle to grow good aubergines. We've discussed it on this podcast, on this live stream, sorry, a few times in the past. And I found that the secret, or I believe the secret with aubergines is to start them very, very early. I'll start mine off, well, I've started them off already, started sowing some seeds December, January, but give them a really protected season and grow them for a very, very long time and try and grow them as much as possible. We have harvested so many aubergines. It's been amazing. Now, the advantage is that they are grown in some of my greenhouses, both here and on the allotment, which is how we've managed to continue producing aubergines this late. But also my microclimate here on Littlehampton, we do have probably quite a mild climate considered compared to the rest of the country. But my garden as well is incredibly well protected. The microclimate is even better. So I think there's quite a few things going on. And aubergines do like that sort of self-facing wall to be productive and to be a really good, strong, productive plant. So a lot of good things going on about aubergines. This year has been a good year for aubergines, but the fact that they are still growing strong at this time of the year says a lot, I think. What do you think? Is anybody else still harvesting their aubergines this late? Over on Instagram, Hayley R. Davies has joined. Lovely to see you. Hope you are well. Bonnie says, also worst was the wet, soggy stair carpets. I hate it when people leave those on the allotments. That's why they banned, most allotments have banned them for that very reason. Turbo Stream says, I know Digwell, but I don't want to have to film everything. The world is completely mad if that's the case. I agree, it is mad, but it's also a way of protecting ourselves at the same time. Bonnie says her rave is how useful pallets are. They have their uses. They do have a lot of uses if you can get hold of lots of them and see what they get on. Jenny says, oh, I missed it. Jenny says, do a hashtag mission, do a tool review to help people think of Christmas ideas or for those starting out in gardening. I was actually going to do the Christmas present the week after next. I'm probably, please jot that down actually, Jenny. I was going to do a Christmas present episode the week after next when I just feel we're getting into December well enough. Because next week, what did I want to talk about next week? How much has your allotment or kitchen garden changed in the time that you have been there? Was the question I was going to ask next week. But the week after that, I want to do about Christmas presents. Just because you know what I'm like with Christmas, I don't like doing it too early, and we're nearly at the point that I feel it's okay. In fact, on the podcast, we're going to be having a few brands come along and discuss some of their products in the run up to Christmas. Gary says, hashtag cookalong, your favorite baked aubergine recipe. A lot of cookalong emissions this week, which is great to see. If we get a frost this week, I might harvest my parsnips. Good idea, good idea. Digwell says, on my plot, there were 3 layers of weed membrane in places like a lasagna of membrane and soil. It's annoying when that happens, isn't it? It's very annoying when they leave those things in the soil and don't bother picking them up. Adrian says, I'm planting courgettes and potatoes. I nearly dumped on newly dumped sheep poo. Is this okay? I would let the sheep poo rot down. I'm trying to work out. I can't remember if it's a hot manure or a cold manure. The courgettes will be fine. It's the potatoes you might get a bit of scab, but if you let it rot down and mix it in with some compost, it'll probably be okay. Courgettes will be absolutely fine in it, though. No problem there. Or any squash for that matter, pumpkins, etc., etc. Jenny, does that include body cams? What did Jenny say? I can't remember now. Something going on. Jamie says aubergines, chilies, and tomatoes still going strong. It's amazing, isn't it? It's absolutely amazing just how much is going on. Sheep poo is a hot manure, so it would possibly burn your plants. So you do need to let it rot down a little. I think courgettes and pumpkins might be okay with it, but just be warned that they might burn at the same time. Potatoes, I would be warned. The potatoes can be, but they might get a lot of scab from the manure. Is the thing I was going to go with that. Jenny says, I've made a note so we can change it. Okay. The mission to tool maintenance. That's a good one. We'll do that in just a second. Is it okay to plant raspberries directly into manure? If it's fresh manure, then no, because it's hot and it could burn the roots. If it's well-rotted manure, I would try and add some fresh compost or well-rotted compost just to lighten it up a bit. But otherwise, yeah. Right, it is now time, if I find the share screen button, to do, well, we got our cookalong. Let's see, we've got 6 entries this week. You guys really been thinking about the cookalong, which is great to see. 6 entries. Let's see who wins and what we're going to be cooking in next week's live stream. As it goes through all the names, I cannot remember what everybody suggested. It's Digwell again. Digwell has recipe, and I think his was pickled carrots, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right on that? Pickled carrots? Let me know. Stuart Jackson says, the best thing for me this week was watching another teacher sowing seeds with children. That's good news. That's good news. By the way, please do share your rants and raves for this week as well in this stream. Digwell says pickled carrots. There we go. That's what I thought it was. So next, let's find it again. We want the mission. The mission of the week, which is it that one? No, it's that one. So 4 entries as well. 4 entries on that. Let's find out what we have here. It rolls through all the names that could be there, and let's see who wins. It's Kate. Kate, I can't remember what your mission was now, so please do let me know what it was. Jenny is the one that shares it with me after the show has ended, so that we know what's going on. Digwell says, do you want a recipe? Yes, please, Digwell. That would be nice. I'll call it the Digwell pickled carrot recipe. That would be lovely. Taboo Stream says, were the children showing the teacher how to sow the seeds, Stuart? That's a good question. Good question there. Build a raised bed cover was the mission. There we go. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. Next week, as I said, I want to discuss, and I think it's going to be a good topic, how much your allotment or kitchen garden has changed in the time that you have been there. And I'm talking about the changes that you've made, but also the changes that go on around the allotment that are out of your control, or around your allotment and around your kitchen garden. What has changed? That's what I want to discuss that next week. The week after, I want to do the Christmas present one. Trying to work out the dates. That'll be the 24th. Oh, that'll be like the 1st of December or something stupid like that, isn't it? Anyway, get the point. Anyway, it is 7:30. You've pulled up with me for an hour and a half now. I think you've actually had really good conversation going on, as always. Hopefully, I think we've figured out all this vertical and horizontal view changes. I think that's worked out quite well in the end, but it has been a good conversation nonetheless. Don't forget to share any photos that you have either in our Facebook group or with me directly via social media or email. We'd love to chat more. Love to share all your experiences of growing your own food. And remember, the slogan at the moment is grow more food, and the slogan that Scott came up with earlier as well, which I quite liked. Right, guys, you take care, and I will speak to you again as I set myself up ready to get out of here. I'll speak to you all again next Sunday at 6, where we will do it all over again. I'll see you then. Take care for now.